Okay, take two. Okay, my name is Greg Kirkpatrick, and 3 years ago now I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. So this is my first video in a path towards healing. Came on after the fairs, September 2009. My feet started going numb. A month later started moving into my calf muscles, and by November it had moved up into my thighs. So I went the usual route, went to the doctor, had an MRI December 2009, and the doctor asked if there was a history of multiple sclerosis in the family. So first thing I do was enter that world of fear, afraid that this disease was going to take over my body, that I was going to end up in a wheelchair, that my mind would disappear and I would no longer be able to care for my kids or know who I was. So January, they sent me in for a spinal tap, where they put a needle between your vertebrae and your spine and did a test to check to see what kinds of proteins were in the spinal fluid. Not hearing back from Dr. Patel, 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, I'm wondering when the results are coming back. Well, she's on her vacation, I don't know, Hawaii, the Bahamas. But I was in the middle of freaking out about what was going on with my body. So I went down to Skagit Valley Hospital, asked the records department to pull up my notes, and looking on the paperwork said testing positive. So I went to Dr. Patel's neurologic clinic upstairs in Skagit Valley Medical Center and said I'd really like to talk to somebody here about what's going on and why am I having to look at my own records instead of hearing it directly from Dr. Patel, who was on vacation. So the secretary went back and she contacted her physician's assistant, and she came back out and got on the phone and said, yes, he already knows about it. And about that time, I think I must have done the manly thing and burst into tears. So I collected myself, went back home, went into work, and let's see. I called up my friend who was injured in a vehicle accident in 2003. She rolled her car. She's in a wheelchair. And my thoughts were, I don't want to live my life from a wheelchair. I can't do this. How am I going to support my children? So I called her up and we talked while I was driving home, and I just about lost it. I did lose it. Just I didn't know if I was going to be able to return with my faculties in order. My mind was just pretty shook up about this diagnosis. Multiple sclerosis is multiple scarring on different places of the spine or on the brain, which can affect mobility, it affects fatigue, it affects your bladder, it can affect your thinking. All these things depending on where these lesions can form. That's the theory anyways. So I went in for IV steroid therapy February 2009, and coincidentally went to the YMCA in Mount Vernon and walked on the treadmill every single day for the next month. And about 6 weeks later I noticed that because of the steroids that my symptoms had diminished quite a bit, that I had got my balance back, my My fatigue was not so great in my legs, and I assumed it was the steroids, the anti-inflammatory, the cure-all that cost me, I think, $10,000 and out-of-pocket expenses. I don't know, there were so many bills that came in and hit me, and after losing the job 10 months later, and they said it was for the best thing, I said, you know, I need to take some time off. And anyways, long story there, that didn't work out. So about that time, I was starting to think that life was not really worth living, and seriously wondered if I was going to be able to come back from that depression. But later in November, I decided I'd sign up for the MS Fitness study. In the MS Fitness study, they suggest that you do some type of exercise, whatever you like, and that if you've reached your goals, you should be happy about that. That was kind of the extent of the fitness study. So they put a ankle bracelet on my leg for the first 3 weeks and said that I was walking about 6,700 steps per day. Now, the average person walks about 10,000 steps a day, and they said the average person with multiple sclerosis, or MS, since I can't speak right now, average person with MS walking about 6,000 steps a day. So I thought, okay, my new goal will be 10,000 steps a day. Then I can be normal. So 3 months into it, back from a follow-up for the study, I go to the Mount Vernon High School track, walk the quarter mile there, and I come back to my living room and promptly just fell on my face. My right leg, my ankle rolled, and I just fell right down on the ground. And wasn't too pleased with that, because I'd never fallen on my face before, since I was probably 1.5 years old. Just like thinking about it creates it. So, God within the body. Healing is there for us. And I'm going to show you what I've learned so far in this very short time. And I'm hoping that this is a path. I'm not hoping, this is a path towards my healing. And I want to show what's going on with me right now. Just to let you know, I do not have very much feeling, especially my right leg. My legs are fatigued, and I'm at the point where I feel if I lose any more energy in these legs, I will be not able to walk at all. So I fell down later that night, back in April 2010, trying to get a van back from the Fanny Halger rehearsal. Missed the foot pedal on the brake and stomped on the accelerator. Ran 2 stop signs, parked the van, walked back to Shane's house, walking downhill with a cane at a pretty good clip until my right leg rolled again. And I fell flat on my back this time, sprawled out on the pavement, hard as hell, and said to myself, I'm going to call for help this time. So calling Tim Fisher, said, dude, come get me. I can't get up. I've fallen. That was a thrill. So he helps me back into the car. I don't know if he realized it or not, but I had wet myself on the way down, or prior to that, because MS has affected my bladder. So it's been a while since I've wet myself. But that's something that everybody should experience, just so you can put yourself back in the position of remembering what it was like to be 1 or 2 years old and not having any idea what was going on and what potty training was all about. So MS puts you back in a position where you can be treated like a 2-year-old because your body functions are not functioning correctly. So I was not too pleased with that. So I want that out of my body. I don't want MS in this body anymore, and I command it to leave this body. It's going to change. I am going to get healthy. I don't want to hear doctors telling me that there is no cure for this disease, because that is a bunch of shit. This disease can be cured, and it has been cured, and there are people out there that are living the life without the symptoms of MS. And I'm going to tell you about those people, because the doctors aren't. The doctors are not telling us that there is a cure for this. Do you know what? Rebif medication is $1,200 a month. $1,200 a month. So why would they want to give us a cure for this? The pharmaceuticals are making a killing with this stuff, and this stuff is killing me, and I'm not gonna deal with that stuff anymore. So I'll tell you what, I have some doctors that I'm not too pleased with, because if they had been living with this disease, they would have found a cure. They would have known that there is a cure. Well, there is a cure, and I'm not going to take Glynia. I'm not going to take Rebif. Glynia has killed 11 people. Now, for the doctors that keep promoting this drug to me, they can tell you I am not going to take that. I am not going to go that route. I am going to change my health through nutrition, through deep breathing, through stress reduction, through getting better sleep, through drinking more water, and for praying to God, because God can change this. Rebif is not going to change this. Glynia is not going to change this. Tisabri, Copaxone, all these other drugs are not going to cure this disease. And I am finding a cure, and I want to tell you about some of the people that I've met and that I've encountered, and I'm going to let you follow my progress, because if you haven't noticed, I've about fallen a few times. So I want to thank Tom Walker for suggesting that I work on some plyometric strength training exercises, and to drop gluten out of my diet, and to check for Lyme's disease. I want to thank Ava Marsh for your story of recovery from MS through mental willpower and studying up on this disease and finding out what is going on with the brain chemistry, and by coming back with an incredible amount of fortitude by exercising your way back to health. I don't even know if you've changed your diet at all, or if you did at that time. I want to thank Anne Baruch for her book discussing the implications of Candida albicans in overgrowth in the intestines that are leaching out into the bloodstream toxins. So I want to thank you as well, and I highly recommend that book as well. Even Rudy Cartwright, with your $497 deposit in order to make a phone call, in order to be an MS health coach for a product, Glucotherix, that you've created yourself and is something that you want to sell to your clients. I still want to thank you, even though I'm not interested in participating at that level. I still want to thank you for saying some things which are true, which it is time for people to get out of their head and their mind conditioning and thinking that there is no cure, because there is a cure and there is hope in this disease. I've seen it and I've experienced it, and I'm going to experience it myself. I also want to thank my new friend online. I don't even know the spelling on her name yet, Broussard. But I don't want to go into MS support meetings and hear people say, you might as well prescribe to the idea of asking the VA for a powered wheelchair, because you're just going to end up immobilized like I was, and you're just going to end up paralyzed. Well, That kind of thinking can get into my head, and I don't want to hear that anymore. If you want to sit there and whine about the disease and how badly it's treated you and what things that you haven't tried or done to change it, well, I don't want to be around people like that. That's not support. So if that's how you feel, great. Keep your opinions to yourself, because the mind does have the power through God to heal this body, and yours too. So here's where I'm at. March 10th, 2012, in the living room here, and I'm going to see where I'm at on some exercise that I highly suggest that you do every day. For me, it's been a minute of push-ups, a minute of crunches, a minute of table makers, and a minute of the horse stance. If you have any questions, great. Look them up on YouTube. The other thing I want to mention is, starting today, I'm going to include the first karate kata that I ever learned. I'm going to see if I can remember the thing, and I know that the breathing and the balance of this kata, if I do this daily as well, is something that is going to help me. I also want to find out some Tai Chi and get more involved in the yoga. So I'm just going to let this thing run. If you can see, great. If not, well, find a different YouTube channel. This is the first kata that I learned in Ellensburg, Washington. I've never done this since being diagnosed with MS 3 years ago. I don't know if I can remember it. Yummy. Table makers. All right, the next exercise that I heard about from Ava Marsh was the idea of crawling around on your hands and fours and standing up. So I alternate legs, using this for balance. Start with my right leg, which is the weakest. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, 10 table markers, alternating legs. That's about a minute, right? Next, horse stance. Not horse dance, horse stance. So, legs shoulder width apart. And squat down in the saddle like you're riding on a horse. I'm going to hold this for 1 minute. Deep breathing, if you can include that, is for the methods of eliminating toxins. 75% of your toxins are eliminated through breathing versus other methods. I don't know if that's accurate or not. That's what I heard in Hanbroke's book. Now if you want, I started out using the cane for support here on the horse stance. Make sure that your back is straight, that your hips are pushed in, your knees are bent, your head is in line with your spine. And here's what happens is my right leg starts to bounce as it gets fatigued. How long is that? I'm guessing that's about 1:10, huh? Not really sure, but if I had a stopwatch here, okay, right leg is getting really soft, mushy kind of feeling. And at what, 40?